Good afternoon, I'm Chris Washko, and this is a project I'm doing for leadership in nursing and management of nurses. Today, we're going to be going over ways to deal with conflict, conflict resolution, delegation, and how to create a healthy work environment. We're going to start off with a scenario that there's a new nurse coming to the unit that you're on, and they're having a lot of conflict with an older nurse that's been there. A lot of times this happens because the newer nurse comes in and wants to bring in the information he's learned from other units, and that older nurse wants to hold on and keep on to what the traditions of that way is. So there's ways to help mediate and control this conflict and manage conflict. As you can see, we got compromise, competing, cooperative and accommodation, smoothing, avoiding, and collaboration. In compromise, you're going to sit both nurses down and try to find a happy medium between the two. You want it so that both nurses will be happy and both nurses might have to get up something. This is a very admirable way to do it, and if it's able to be done, one of the most easiest ways to resolve conflict. Competing, you have these two nurses that are going back and forth to each other. They're going to keep going, and eventually one's going to be a loser, one's going to be a winner, and that's just not a good way to solve this. Cooperation and accommodation. This is once again where the management steps in and says, hey, I'm going to go this way. They compromise, they get cooperation between both nurses. Both nurses see the ways that need to be done, and they become accommodating and they cooperate with overall management of the unit to help make the unit a better, stronger place. Smoothing, this is where the manager steps in between the two and helps the people maybe see the ways that the nursing should be done or the way that the unit's done, and they help ease to calm both patients, or excuse me, both nurses. They calm and ease the frustrations they're having, and they try to help them. Now, avoiding is one thing that comes all together. You get these two people. Sometimes they will do this too, where they have competing nurses like this. They put them on completely different shifts or different work schedules to keep them away. And a lot of times the manager at this point doesn't want to deal with these. So they, like it says, they avoid them. They don't want to help resolve this, and it's called avoiding. It's a very poor way to do this, and a lot of times this comes back to get it. And collaborating, that's where you get everybody together and you work together to get it done. Now, if you looked here, we've also conflict resolution. It's an art form. It's not something you do right off the bat. It needs a lot of preparation, composure, and recognition of both parties. And you have the pitfalls you get before, during, and after. So whenever you're getting ready for this, you need to do the research to see what both people need, what the rules and regulations are. You might want to do a pre-interview with both people to see what their expectations are and whether they're having problems with the other people. During the whole thing, you're going to bring them in, sit them down, back and forth reform. You want to keep your composure. You don't want to get angry. You don't want to seem like you're on one person's side. If the argument starts to get a little heated and hot, well, then you know what? It's time to take a break. And recognition, this is what happens at the end when you both come to a complete resolution to this, or what you believe is a resolution of conflict. You sit there, you go over what's been said, what they agreed to, and reiterate. After this too, you'll eventually, when you walk away from the meeting, that's just not the end of it. You're going to have to follow up. You're going to have to make sure things are going smoothly. If you don't follow up, things could already revert back to the way they are, and then you have to start the whole process over. Now, there's three huge pitfalls when you're walking into negotiation. One is called aggressively taking over. This is when you go into a negotiation and one party becomes more aggressive and ends up taking over and running the whole situation. This is usually what we call a personality type A. They're very assertive. They're going to get it. They're going to overstep the person. And if the other person going there is very passive, very mellow, they might not get their feelings heard. They might not get their views heard. So this person becomes overly aggressive. Take this. If you're a mediator, you may need to make sure that you're stifling this person. You don't want to shut them completely out, but you want to make sure the person that might be a little more timid or a little more reserved has equal say, and you both can come to a nice resolution. Ridiculing. You don't want this to happen at all. If you go into a meeting, one person starts ridiculing the other, they start going back and forth ridiculing, or you start ridiculing, that doesn't accomplish anything. I had a great leader once that told me, I have always been able to get people to see my point when I'm yelling and screaming at them. course, he's being very sarcastic. Brings to the point that if you get into a heated argument where voices become loud and people are shouting at each other, at that time the meeting's over. People are closed off. They're not going to follow. They're not going to help, because at that point, all they want to say is that they're right, the other person's wrong. Also, when you're in this meeting, flattery. You want to make sure not to sit there and over flatter one party and leave the other out, because this can make the person that's getting over flattered thinking that they're 100% correct. They don't need to change, and they're going to keep pushing that. The other person that's getting no flattery starts asking, what's wrong with me? I'm not important, and they shut down. So next thing we'll talk about is we got charge nurse delegation. This is a lot of times you will be the charge nurse of a unit whenever you become more of a leadership role. So you've got 5 rights of delegation. You've got the right task, the right circumstance, the right person, the right direction and communication, the right level of supervision. Whenever you're a charge nurse, you're going to be delegating different things to different people. You want to make sure it's the right task for the right person. You don't want to tell your certified nursing aide to walk in there and give them medication. First of all, they are not allowed to do that. That's beyond their scope. You also might not want to sit there and tell a brand new nurse to go start a heparin drip who's never done it before. That would not be a proper task for that person. You need somebody to go in there and show them the way. So you always got to be task oriented. Which person will best accomplish that task? And as a good leadership, you will also see people that are lacking there and maybe use training at that point. The right circumstance. Once again, if we have an overly aggressive patient, you don't want to send in a little timid nurse. You might want to send in a lot of times, and often on my part, a guy who's a little more assertive that's going to help shut this person down and maybe ease the patient's name. You also, sometimes you get these little ladies that don't want a male nurse, so you don't want to sell them a male nurse. So as a delegation, you're going to look at the responsibilities and figure who you're going to send to the right thing. That also kind of falls on the right person. Sometimes you get a person that's a good listener. That's what they need for a person. Sometimes you get a person that's not a good listener that maybe is a better teacher that needs to do that. Right direction and communication. Communication is key. Whenever you're doing this, you have to have clear, precise direction. If you have bad communication, you tell the person what you want done, but you don't communicate the importance of it, or maybe all the detailed steps, that person might not understand, not do the task, do it wrong, or not give you the results that you want. So you've always got to look at that communication. You need to be clear, precise. You need to leave the door open both ways to be a good listener too. Part of communication is listening. You give a task to somebody, turn around and say, I don't understand you. You don't shut down. You sit there and say, okay, what do we not understand? You go back, you explain, you work together until there's a clear, concise understanding between you two. And the right level of supervision. Once again, this kind of goes back to the right task. You don't want to take a CNA and tell them to do something that's a nursing job. Now, if you have a new CNA, maybe you need a seasoned CNA to go with that person and show them how to do a right bath of the patient, maybe how to do the chlorhexidine wipes that are so big right now. You might want to explain to them, the proper way to watch, to see, and take vitals. If there's no vitals on the right arm, explain them how to take it on the left, or maybe a different part of the body. Also, you want to just make sure that you're not putting a task that's way over somebody's head to somebody who doesn't understand it. So when you're delegating, those are things to think about. Effective delegation. Here we got planning ahead. You want a capable person for that task, proper communication, empowerment, deadlines and monitoring progress. You also want to look at the mentor and leadership, feedback, and rewards. All these things have to be done whenever you're doing effective delegating. Whenever you come onto that unit, you need to look at the people you have. You need to understand their strengths and weaknesses. And maybe when you're getting a new admit, you think ahead before that person gets there would be the better nurse to put on this patient. Proper communication. Once again, I already covered that. Got to be clear, precise. Got to be able to get your thoughts and your views across that person. Empowerment. A lot of times, this is a great thing. A person might be new at this, and if you're sitting there watching over their shoulder every step they do, they don't feel like they're doing it. They don't feel like they're really doing good. So you have to empower that person to get some time underneath their belt to come up. You also want to have, whenever as a leader somebody talks to you, you also want to sit there and listen. One of the best things you can do as a leader is listen to the other person. A lot of times, my past career in the military, I led a shop. Whenever I had a task in hand, I would get input from my guys because sometimes they might have had a better way. We'd explain it. As a leadership, I'd empower them and let them do that. Deadlines, monitoring progress. You give a person that you got a deadline, you got to monitor them. Sometimes you got to follow up before it's done to make sure that they're getting it done on time. And if they're falling behind, as a good leader, you should be able to come in, assist, maybe help out, or help move the deadline, or give them help that they need. Feedback. Feedback's always good. You always want to come back with feedback. You always want to be talking to them about how they're doing, how they're not doing. You always want to keep them moving forward. Mentoring and leadership. That's always, as a leader, you're going to be mentoring people below you. A bad leader comes in, tells what to do, and walks out. That's not a leader. That's kind of just a manager. Good leadership can be from within. Leadership and mentoring comes from anybody. You have somebody below you, you know how to do a task, you take them under your wing, you teach them how to do it, and rewarding. One problem that we have in a lot of these units is all these people hear what they're doing wrong. They're doing wrong. They're doing wrong. If you keep telling a person they're doing wrong, they're not going to become positive. They're going to block you out. So you got to tell them they're doing good. You got to give them positive feedback. You got to give them praise. Keep them moving forward. Delegation errors. Under delegating. That's when you have to do it all because if people are below you, they're incompetent, they can't do it. So you sit there and you overtake it. Over delegating is I'm the boss. I'm going to put all my chores out. Nobody. I'm going to sit back and do it. Very bad. Improper delegating. The wrong time, the wrong person, wrong capabilities, information, reasons. We kind of covered that over the whole thing before about putting the right person on the right task. Healthy work environment. What is a healthy work environment? Healthy work environment has leadership, recognition, communication, genuine teamwork, appropriate staffing, and safety. Good leadership is essential to make a healthy work environment. Recognition, we already covered this. You need to recognize your people to make them feel good. Communication, once again, key. Genuine teamwork. If you can foster a group of people to work together as a team and to help out, when things get bad, you don't have to tell them what to do. They step in, they give a hand. And whenever you have a task that many people are working together on, it becomes easier than having one person's isolated. Appropriate staffing and safety, that's always huge wherever you go. You need the appropriate staff and safety measures in place. The American Association of Critical Nursing Care, skilled communication, true collaboration, effective decision making, appropriate staffing, mindful recognition, and authentic leadership. This is what they all see as being very important to help an effective unit. As you can see here, once again, communication, true collaboration, listen to your people working with you, effective decision making. You have a good leader, they take the initiative, they make good choices. Appropriate staffing, we've covered that. Meaningful recognition, you always want to make sure to pull that up. And authentic leadership, a leader is a good person. Doesn't have to be the top manager, but a leader is somebody who'll take and lead you forward. Current work at pace I work in is very healthy right now. We are going through a lot of growing changes. We've got new leadership, but our new leaders working with us to make sure everything is effective and we're moving forward in the right direction. I'm very happy with what I work out. We do have a few problems, but no unit's perfect, but our new leader is working to do with that. People don't like change, they resist it, but our new leadership's coming in. She's trying to accommodate us and she's trying to give us the proper training, trying to help make this a better smooth transition to the way our unit's going. So I see this unit I work on as very positive. Effective leadership and healthy work environment. This is where we start getting into the whole point of how this works. Happiness and meaning. If you have a good worker, a good work environment, they're happy. If you include them, they feel like they have meaning, they feel like they're important in this, they're going to be more satisfied, keep moving forward. Policies, feedback, and praises. You always want to make sure that you give them feedback, what they're doing wrong, but more importantly, also what they're doing right. You can do what's corrective, you can also do what's called constructive criticism, where you take these people, help them move forward and understand what's going on. And praise, more praise, more praise. Work-life integration. This is where you're going to make it comfortable for the person there. You're also going to see them not as a worker, but as a person. You're going to understand their wants, their needs. You're going to help balance their work and their personal life. If they need emergency to go on for a family death, you work with that. If they get an important show to go through where their kids are, you'll work with them. You see them as a person. Now, don't let them overuse it. You got to find a happy balance. And creating a meaningful workplace. This is where, once again, people come in. They feel like they're a part of something larger, more important, and they're happy to do a task. This also incorporates mind, body, and soul, where you've got a person that's happy, they're stimulating their mind, they also get enough sleep, you're make them feel good, so their body's in shape, you make sure they get the right nutrition, and soul, this is what you lead. And then you get the leadership that's involved in what's going on, they empower their people, and they're very caring, and they care what's going on. This was a quick representation over this. I wish I had more time to go over more detail, but here are my references. I hope you enjoyed this. And once again, you can watch it over, criticize it, sit there and come up with questions, and respond back to the link. I'm Chris. This is my presentation. I appreciate your time. Thank you.